Okay, welcome to discoverability.com, and today we're going to be talking about tips for surviving your Maximus assessment.
Dun, dun, dun.
Here with me is a lady who has been to the Maximus assessment, and she's written about it on the Discoverability webpage. What are the first things you can tell us about going to the Maximus Work Capability Assessment?
Well, I'm sure we've all heard the horror stories about Maximus and Atos, and reading about the terminally ill people who were declared fit for work and then they die 2 weeks later. So when I got my letter of doom from them, didn't exactly fill me with hope, shall we say.
A bit of worry about attending.
Slightly, yes. Yes, because you've got people that can decide your foreseeable future, shall we say, in a rather limited amount of time for however long the interview takes.
So having gone through that process, have you got any advice for people who are about to undertake the assessment themselves?
Yeah, I would say first of all, take someone with you to help fight your corner. Don't be afraid of taking someone. I took someone with me. Personally, I've got a very bad short-term memory, and as you can probably tell, I sometimes get tongue-tied as well. So having someone with me was really important. I would also say it's very important to consider who you take, because it's very tempting to take your best friend or your partner. They might not be the best person though. You need someone who can chip in when needed, support you, but also someone that can remain calm, because it's very easy to get irritated at these things, because you're probably having to explain something that you haven't had to explain a billion times before.
So an advocate, is that one of the most important things you'd advise people to think about?
Yeah. Just take someone with you who you can trust, who's not going to flip their lid easily.
And is this something which Maximus are quite accepting of? When you were in the waiting area?
They were absolutely fine with me. There were people that didn't take anyone, so personal choice obviously, but I would say if someone's free, take them. And don't feel embarrassed about it either.
So when you're actually in the assessment, you're there with your advocate, have you got any advice on how you interact with them?
Might sound obvious, but I would say being polite will go a long way in helping you. The questions they ask, try to remember that they don't necessarily choose the questions. They probably have a list that they have to ask for their job. So they might not like it any more than you do, so just bear that in mind. We all have to remember that yes, there are assessors that are badly qualified, they don't have sympathy, or they're just a plain crab apple. And generally speaking, we get a feel of that pretty soon after we arrive in our assessment. And I get how frustrating that is. Also, the assessor doesn't actually decide your fate. Their report is sent off to some other bigwigs who decide that. But it will hold quite a lot of weight, obviously. Try and smile as well. Very simple one, but it can make a lot of difference, because they probably see a lot of people that are tired, in pain, frustrated, and it helps a bit. That's the theory anyway.
Okay, so smile and be polite as far as possible. Have you got any advice for things that people can take with them during the assessment?
Yeah.
Beforehand, preparation, etc.?
If you can, get photos or photocopies of your ESA claim way before you got the letter to attend. obviously it's quite a long wait for most of us between applying for ESA and then going to the interview. So take photocopies, because no one can remember what they wrote in them. Also, if you can't do that, scribble down some bullet points of the main things you struggle with and stuff. Generally speaking, they'll do scales of things, so they'll want to know how your issues affect you on scales of, say, 1 to 10. So try and remember that when you're writing down problems that you have.
So when it comes to actually explaining your symptoms to the assessor, do you have any advice in that area?
Really easy to do, but try not to over exaggerate or, importantly, downplay your symptoms. It's really British to downplay and say, oh, I'm fine, I can struggle on. If you were fine, you would not be going through this trauma. Okay, so don't feel bad about being there. And don't try and over exaggerate, which I know is really easy when you're trying to explain to someone who possibly has no clue of your background. Be prepared to explain as well. And I know we spend our lives explaining our symptoms, but don't assume that they know all about your condition. That basically they need a full and complete picture of you and how your symptoms affect your daily life to be able to make a report. And the more info you can give them, the more detailed their report will be.
Any more advice?
Might be an idea to jot down some answers to possible questions. A lot of the questions are going to be based around how you cope on a daily basis using a 1 to 10 count. My best advice is to give you examples. So things like how do you feel after walking up a flight of stairs? What do you struggle to do? Can you manage to do the ironing or lift X amount of objects or whatever? It's things like that. Don't be afraid to mention things that you are able to do or that you don't struggle with, because it doesn't mean that you don't
won't have a negative impact on the assessment.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to ask the assessor questions.
So when you're in the assessment, how long was it in your experience? Do people need to bring anything with them? Any provisions?
I did. When I was there, we got there maybe 5-10 minutes early, and I didn't get seen for about 3/4 of an hour. So I would advise taking a snack and a drink. Also, maybe consider bringing your own mini survival tools, so to speak. So
survival tools?
Yes, survival tools. It can leave you the whole waiting for the assessment more than anything can leave you just feeling mentally and physically exhausted. It made me feel like that. So plan ahead as well. Dig out your favourite outfit or something that you're most comfortable in. Just something that gives you a boost. Take something that relaxes you. So favourite book, magazines, music, just whatever it is that can occupy your mind so that you're not thinking about the assessment. If you get stressed easily or anxious, which quite a lot of us do tend to do, myself included, anti-stress balls, rubber bands, squishy toys, just what helps you. Rescue mints and rescue remedy drops can help as well. If you've got pains and stuff, I would definitely advise you take a neck pillow, maybe a cushion, maybe a backrest, So painkillers, don't forget your painkillers. Don't forget whatever medications you need to take, even if it looks like you've robbed a pharmacy store. Take it. And also just bear in mind that as stressful as the assessment is, and even if you think it hasn't gone well, don't try and guess the outcome. And if it's not the result you wanted, there are always appeals. As Angelica Houston once said in a quite kick-ass movie, nothing is final until you're dead, and even then God negotiates. So just bear that in mind.
Thank you ever so much.
Thank you.
And if anyone's got any questions, please get in touch.